Hello, everybody. How are you? So we're on a really short time frame today, and I'm going to be moving right along. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have everyone join us. We are setting up our live streaming on Facebook right now, but those of us who have joined the Zoom chat, welcome to the Shirley Hall Bass Dance Educators Forum. This is our second year constructing an event like this. I am so excited to be able to extend my aunt's legacy around dance education, particularly in the Bahamas. So today, we're going to be sharing stories. We're going to be listening to the personal reflections of teaching artists. And we are going to be coming together in purpose for a mission and purpose, and that is to improve and support and maintain the legacy that my aunt was working so hard on, and that's dance education in the Bahamas. So I'll start right now and say that my name is Kristen Carroll. I am Shirley Hall Bass's niece, and I am a dance educator. Last year, I had the incredible opportunity to bring a filmmaker, Janae Kutcher, to the Bahamas to engage in a project on interviewing Shirley's dance students. We interviewed over 22 people with the Chicago Dance History Project. The 22 interviews included her dancers who were professional dancers, including our honoree this evening, Lawrence Carroll. It included students from her experience at Government High, where she taught high school and had an incredible production of West Side Story. And we had two separate events. One was at the University of the Bahamas, which my co-host, hi, Faith Butler, she's here as well. She can show us her face, her smiling face. She's my co-host. And Faith Butler and I worked at the university to document not only the stories and experiences of the people we knew, but by taking an advertisement out in the paper, we found the majority of people came to share their stories. It is so important, and what I learned from the interviews is that dance education, and this has been from my own experience, and it definitely came through in the interviews, that dance education is really three things. One thing we think about all the time is the doing of dance, right? We all do dance. We all, I say, I do, you do, follow me. That's a huge part of dance education. But the other part of dance education, which is really, really important, okay, is the language of dance, is being able to know and understand dance, to be able to talk about dance, to be able to have an opinion about dance, to be able to evaluate dance, right? And then to understand dance in the culture that produces the dance. That's an important part, right, of understanding dance. Understanding the culture that produced that form, understanding the influences, the relationship between the music. When we're talking about dance education in this time of COVID, when we can't just as easily, I do, you do, this is the most incredible opportunity we could ever have, right? To expand our definition of dance and to include vocabulary, language, discussion, history, to include biography, okay? And increase the understanding of dance education. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our two moderators. And our two moderators are interesting in that they really represent these two aspects that I'm asking us to consider. Our first moderator is Shel Parkins. She is a doctoral fellow and Arthur Zankel Urban Fellow at the Teachers College at Columbia University. And I also have Pamela Burnside. She's an incredible dance and cultural historian. She has put on her own works documenting the history of dance education in the Bahamas. And I'm just going to share a little bit about Pam and Michelle before we get into our program. Pamela Jones Burnside is proud to have been a student of the very first dance class that Shirley Hall Bass started in Nassau in 1966. She holds degrees in English from McMaster University in Hamilton, Canada, and in fashion and textiles from the St. Martin's School of Art in London, England. Pam is a Bahamian and she is a cultural advocate. She is the secretary of Transforming Spaces, an art tour organization, and she is the president of Creative Nassau, a registered nonprofit community organization which celebrates and promotes Bahamian art, culture, and heritage from the inside out. Pamela was wonderful last year when she had Janae and I come on her Creative Nassau radio broadcast that she really uses to get the word out and the message about the great things that are happening in arts education in the Bahamas. She's also the owner and manager of Dungalik Studios, which is an art gallery and a creative exhibition space, and a fine art retail store, which was founded in the 1970s. They recently, and it was not that long ago, as I had said, mounted a dance exhibition called The Spirit of Dance that honored Shirley along with Hubert Farrington and Paul Mears. With respect to the present COVID-19 pandemic, Pam is also an incredibly strong founding member of the Orange Economy Subcommittee of the government-appointed Economic Recovery Committee, where she's actively promoting Bahamian creativity in all its forces. So Pam, if you can show us your lovely face, she's here with us today. She's gonna show us her face. And then Shell Parkins, as I mentioned before, is a doctoral student in the dance education program at the Teachers College. Her career as a dance advocate and educator, choreographer, and performer, she's dedicated to the lifting and the voices of the marginalized community. And her career has spanned 25 years, really being a strong advocate for dance education traveling the world, okay? Her work has been presented in festivals throughout the United States, Northern England, and Spain. And Parkins is an ongoing choreographic project. She has this work, as long as I've known her. I met her in Tennessee. We've been having workshops like this for a little bit. And her research project, which I posted on Facebook for you guys to check out, it's a little bit of a trailer, is called Wanderlust Dance. And it explores transmedia platforms for sharing virtual and corporal travels, dance experiences, while incorporating motion capture technology to manipulate live video, right? So here we are. We have some experts, some people who are really good at building community and using technology to explore different areas of dance. I want you to know about Shell is that she spent 3 years as the director of dance at a Manor High School in Texas. And she was also a full-time lecturer at Middle Tennessee State University, helping to initiate the first standalone dance major, which is something we're very interested in the Bahamas, right? We need a dance major in that state. While she was at Middle Tennessee State University, she led 3 student groups to perform and facilitate in workshops in Guatemala. As the executive director of the Tennessee Association of Dance, a core member of Arts Ed Tennessee, and a fine art subject matter expert for the Tennessee Department of Education, she has been a leading voice in advocating for equitable access to dance education in Tennessee. So those are our panelists, and I'm so happy that they're going to be here to join us. The way we are structuring our discussion today will allow us to hear 2 different sort of voices, 2 different sort of perspectives around us expanding our sense and concept of education. So without further ado, I'd like our moderators, we'll start with Pam, to tell us just a little bit about herself and her vision specifically in dance education. Thank you, Pam.
Well, as you mentioned, I was one of Shirley's first dancers, and anyone who's on this webinar who knows Shirley, I started as a teenager, and up until the time when I was married, had finished university, had children, she was still making sure that I came to help out with the shows. So it was a really important part of my life, and even when I was away in school, I signed up for dance classes while I was away. I love to tap, so I took my tap shoes with me. So it's really been an important part of my life, and it's a family, because, you know, anyone who's been with Shirley's class knows that once you see each other again, you reminisce about all of the good times that you had going to Chicago, being on the stage, do it again. That famous phrase from the tap that Shirley used to say. So it's a really important part of my life, and it has definitely had a positive impact on all of the things that I have done since. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thank you, Pam. And I wish I could take this show from the top right now. We're 13 minutes into the show, and I'd be like, can we take it from the top? But Shell, can you tell us a little bit about your work and how this is relevant to what you've been doing?
Sure, and I'll keep it brief because there's so many amazing panelists here today that I know everybody is really eager to hear from. I've had a very fulfilling and diverse career as a dancer and a choreographer and a performer, but certainly in the last maybe 10 years, I've really been focused on equitable access to dance education. And right now I'm really looking at serving the Latinx community particularly. And I think, you know, the current climate, everything turning to, you know, us having to lean on the virtual classroom, it really creates an opportunity for us to think about how we're connecting with students and what it is we find are the most valuable skills that they're developing through these dance education opportunities. So I'm just really excited to hear from everybody today, and thank you for letting me join you.
Fantastic. I'm working that mute button. Okay. Well, I have a very special way of introducing our panelists. And that is through film. So when we talk about expanding our definition of dance education, we talk about using the technology, using the media, you have to be an interdisciplinary artist. Our children need skills in framing and film and editing and technology and communication. So I would like to share a film with you that a friend of mine put together that really shows the relationship that I have with Melanie and Pierre, with Courtney, who's an amazing young dancer. Can we start that film? Krista Stillian.
I pledge my allegiance to the flag and to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, for which it stands, one people, united in love and service.
That's really exciting. Well, Maureen brings us back into the slide presentation. I'm just going to tell you very briefly that these are some amazing people that we're going to hear from today. We have a series of questions and we will be checking the chat for additional questions. If we do not have time, we're talking about extending this into a future series. So we're gathering information. Pam, I've got you for the first question. Let's get talking.
Oh, okay. This first question is going out to Krista Stillian as well as Melanie after he finishes. Performing brings opportunity for students to embody what they have learned and to take pride in their accomplishments. Social distancing has limited how and where performances take place in the time of COVID. How have you re-envisioned performance opportunities for your students, and how have they responded? And what have students, have they themselves had ideas of their own?
Yes,
Chris?
yes, good day. Can you hear me? I hope everyone can hear me fine.
Yes,
We,
we
we,
can
we
hear.
have a unique opportunity to assist students in truly being independent thinkers. In our group colors, this time we took the opportunity to challenge challenge them to be creative with using the tools that are available to us. Not being able to dance and play instruments, design costumes, and some of the things we do in our organization, and interact with each other just on a daily basis in the shack where we do most of our work, has been really a challenge, truly. It was a welcomed opportunity to challenge ourselves to continue to be creative. The project we did that you saw clips of a few minutes ago, doing a project from home with them dancing and playing their instruments and preserving their culture, and not only for the group but also for the wider community, gave them an opportunity to continue to share and to connect with each other. Yes, it is challenging, but I think the current crisis is forcing both software developers, teachers, and creatives to find new ways of connecting, whether it's in our backyards, in our rooms, private rooms, sidewalks, the street where we record and send information back and forth. I think we will find a way. You can't stop a creative light from shining. And yes, our young people are making contribution to the whole process in conversation. They're coming up with new ideas. There are a lot of programs out there that I didn't even know about that they're saying, hey, Mr. J, try this. This particular software can work, and so on. So I think the challenge is on, and only our own imagination can limit what is possible in the coming months.
Definitely infinite possibilities, as my daughter says.
Yes.
And Melanie, what is your response to that question?
Well, I'm coming to you from the world of bomba, Puerto Rican bomba, and my community has also been adapting very well. I have seen groups perform live in front of their homes, in backyards, in public spaces. Our community is pre-recording performances and then posting them at a scheduled time. Something that I'm seeing that's new, at least in our community, is that student recitals at the end of virtual semesters or quarters are being published and shared. Students are circulating their homework assignments. And so we're getting these mini performances throughout the weeks and months of this international lockdown. Social media has played such a huge part. I'm seeing TikTok videos being created to share some of the instruction that's being received through workshops and virtual classes. And at least in my world, a lot of the people who engage in dance also tend to be musicians of some kind. And most of them are educators. A lot of people in the bomba community are also educating about bomba as much as they are dancing, singing, and playing our floor drums. And so what we have seen is that there are a lot of contextual discussions happening in the absence of the ability to gather.
I want to jump in very quickly, Melanie, if I could, because I am starting at the top of the show. And what I meant to do, and it's so important when we do this, because this was an idea, we talked about it, right? That I was going to ask each panelist to talk about this question. What was your practice right before COVID, right? And I don't want to miss that opportunity because I want the panelists an opportunity to give them an opportunity to describe their practice so we can see how they've adapted. So Melanie, can I back you up and then we'll come back to Chris really quickly to include who are you? Because we didn't get to hear that yet. I apologize for getting off script.
Okay. Well, I am an independent scholar. I am a practitioner of traditional bomba from Puerto Rico. It's a floor drum based music and dance that involves the drum, the secondary drum creating a heartbeat, and then the dancer improvising on top of that heartbeat with the primary drum interpreting the movements of the dancer. So there's this conversation happening that is corporeal, it's musical, very visual. So I've been in that world for about 20 years. You and I met in undergrad theater, so theater is my background. But for the last 20 years, I have been a dancer, singer, and researcher of bomba. And I spend a good portion of my personal time researching, documenting, and educating about bomba.
I got it. Hey, Chris, what about you? Can you tell us a little bit about your practice? What were you doing right before COVID happened?
Well, for the past 40 years, I've been quite busy. Actually, I'm a musician. I have a band called Ambassa. We play quite a variety of music, been around since 1991. I just started up a steel drum band last year, Deep Blue Steel. That keeps me busy as well. I'm the leader of Colors Junkanoo Group, a group of 130 young and energetic people who preserve and celebrate our Junkanoo festivals, not just in the Bahamas, but internationally as well. We've traveled from Italy to Beverly Hills, all over the United States, Puerto Rico, Trinidad, and Jamaica, all over the place.
Chris, do you remember that time I was at a Chicago Park District field house teaching dance for Sammy Dyer on a Saturday, as I was for many years?
Yes.
I heard that Junkanoo music, and lo and behold, Chris Justillion, my Junkanoo leader, is in Chicago. You've been traveling.
And we didn't even know that we would be in the same vicinity. That is so strange.
Why do you travel like that, Chris? I'm sorry for jumping in. Why do you? What is it about your traveling show? Why do you do that?
Well, it's important for our young people to be exposed to other cultures and also to share their culture. You know, oftentimes when you're in small communities like ours, we don't really understand or appreciate the gravity of the importance of what we do. When our group travel and you see thousands of persons following the group and having a good time, it's quite a difference than when we're here and people are saying, "Oh, that's just Junkanoo," you know. Not to that extent, but it feels as if you're underappreciated because it's so commonplace, like the beach. It's like seeing the beach every day. All right. But aside from the cultural aspect, I'm also an assistant professor at the UC, where I'm in the music department. I'm particularly charged with the band program and the brass instrumental program. And that's, we've been performing with the university ensembles and with my group Colors and my band Ambassa all over town, traveling and performing. That's what I was doing right before COVID. In fact, we were scheduled to perform with Colors every year for the past 90s or so. So the folks there are missing us and we're missing them because we got a few 100,000 people that come out there, and some of them only are coming there because the Junkanoo is being highlighted there as well. So my life is really almost at a screeching halt, in consideration of what it used to be in the past.
Thank you. And we have other panelists. I'd like to introduce, we just saw the film, but Pierre, can you tell us what you were doing right up until the time of COVID? Pierre Lockett, who I worked with for many years at Joffrey Ballet. Pierre.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Just before COVID happened, for Momentum Chicago, our primary focus is to bring dance to children and communities with limited access to the arts. We had programs in over 43 CPS schools. We were planning our spring showcase where we invite schools to come together. We were also heavy into planning our summer workshop, our summer dance camp, which you have here in Chicago. And we were anticipating providing programming to over 300 students. We had 4 After School Matters programs that were all going to be live. And so when COVID happened, we just went into immediate what are we going to do mode and started planning. Then immediately, once it happened, we started creating videos to share with schools. We had to switch everything over so that it could be done remotely. And I'm proud to say that we kind of pulled it off pretty well. I'm really pleased
That's
with
why
it
you're
all.
here. That's why you're here, Pierre, because I know you pulled it off pretty well. I have another panelist, and that is the fantastic Courtney Spears. Courtney, what were you doing right before COVID happened?
Hello, hi. I'm just so excited to be here. So that's why I have this huge smile on my face. Right before COVID, I was actually on tour with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. We were on our 25 city tour that kind of spans over 4 months. And we just landed in Dallas, and, you know, we had heard that like we might get some performances postponed, and then we just got hit with the, you know, you're done, thanks so much, but everyone's got to go home. And, you know, a performance day means traveling, it means going to the theater, it means class, it means rehearsals. Our days are pretty long, so we kind of halted right at that point. And with Artsy Dance, where I am able to bring a lot of my colleagues and friends and teachers to Nassau to teach, we were right in the middle of planning that workshop. It would have been our 4th year hosting it. And we always have a bunch of students that come out. And so that all had to stop. So we ended up transitioning over to classes and panels and Instagram lives, which ended up being really beautiful to kind of get that open dialogue. And I think there's something really humbling about seeing one of your favorite dancers in their living room trying to get their leg up and move, and it's like an even playing field. So we were moving, but we adjusted.
Thank you so much. So now I believe, and you guys have to help me because I'm on stage and confused about Zoom, we've heard from all 4 of our panelists. We've already answered our first question. I'm reoriented on my script, you guys, and I'd like to turn it back to Shell, who I think has a second question for our panelists today. Thank you guys so much for telling us what you were up to right up until the pandemic. Thank you.
So Melanie, this question is actually for you. So much feels lost in the virtual classroom, particularly our connection to our dancing peers. Community and culture are threads in all of the panelists' work today. How do you maintain culture, community, and engagement in your virtual classroom?
Well, again, I'm part of a larger community. I work with a few different groups, and I can start by telling you about one of them, La Escuela de Bomba y Plena, Tata Cepeda, here in Florida, Central Florida. One of the very first things that, as a board member, I helped facilitate with the school was a series of online conversations, online discussions. We had our huge annual event that was scheduled for May, and just as Courtney mentioned, and Christian and Pierre, we had to kind of decide very quickly what we would do in place of that. We didn't want to lose the momentum that we've been building all year. And so one of the things that we did is that we scheduled 10 consecutive weeks of community conversations, very similar to a town hall format. We invited presenters, we discussed hot topics, really. There's so much happening over May and June and even into July, and we really wanted to be responsive to our community. But we used the opportunities I mentioned earlier to fortify our community, which is a community of educators, with contextual information, historical information, oral histories, maps, books. Right now, the school is conducting a book study for our educators, and we have participants from coast to coast and throughout the island. And so that's one of the ways that we've been able to quickly pivot during this time. I actually had a very large weekend-long event scheduled in Puerto Rico for May, and I had to quickly pivot. One of the things that I do is that I educate in the space where the history happened. So we give presentations in alleys, at cemeteries, anywhere that was a site of Black cultural production in Puerto Rico. And so taking that physicality away from the experience really put a damper, for me at least, on the ability to create an experience. And so what one of the things that I did in that case was to create videos. And so one of the presentations, the video was posted in the morning, and then we did a Q&A with our community in the afternoon, in the early evening, so that they had a chance to watch the video and then engage with myself and my co-researcher, Jose Cepeda, to discuss the learning and the placemaking that would have happened had they been able to engage with us in person. So there have been a few different ways that we've looked to maintain that sense of community, to continue to keep people connected to a cultural experience.
That's amazing. I just want to, I think it's beyond the breadth of this conversation, but I wanted to just kind of point out, you're talking not only about developing community ties, having back and forth conversations within your community, but this, I hadn't heard you talk about this, going to specific places and studying history of place. And I just want to acknowledge that the landscape of Puerto Rico has been changing so drastically between the earthquake swarms and the hurricane. And so that sounds really amazing. And at some point, I'd love to hear more about how you continue to do that work, especially virtually. But because of time, Chris Justilian, do you have anything you want to add from, I know you do a lot of this kind of similar, bringing the community together virtually, and I'd love to hear more about it. You're still muted.
My apologies. It's so important to keep everyone connected. We have active Facebook pages and WhatsApp groups, so everyone feel as if they're always in touch with each other. And we've been reaching out, not just in a creative sense, but also in a social sense, because a lot of families are out of work. There's one particular family I could think of right now. He has 3 daughters that are dancers in the group, and he's one of our costume designers and costume builders. And we have programs to reach out to our members, because we can't always depend on the governmental support. So our organizations, we have to try to place ourselves in a position to assist, not just in the creative sense, but also to feed the spirit of the whole man instead of just the creative man. So that's one of the challenges as well during this time.
Wow, thank you. Again, there's so many other things coming in, like this support from the government and how people are taking it into their own hands to build and develop community. I have such great respect for what you're both doing. I think Pam has another question.
Yes, my second question is going now to the dance teachers. Courtney's grandmother and I were in school together, Courtney and Pierre. So this question is, as dance teachers, your methodologies are very hands-on and up close. You're used to walking around the classroom to check for alignment and quality of movement while giving quick verbal and tactile feedback to all of your students at once. And you use your students as models so others can learn from adjustments that they make or their approaches to executing technique and artistry. So how has the remote classroom impacted your teaching methodology? And how do you also give corrections and increase somatic awareness during this COVID time? Courtney?
So it's been hard. I don't even want to say and make it sound easier than it has been. It has been difficult. I learned how to move and how to dance through the art of touch and people. And so to have that entire factor be canceled has been an entire reshifting and reimagining of the art form. But what I found is there's so much beauty in the accountability, I think, that it's put on the teacher and the student. And as someone who is still always trying to live in a student mentality, to learn, being in a company like Ailey, and then also being a teacher, I've kind of been able to see the effects from both ends. And I think what it's done, one point is that teachers have had to really kind of assess the way that they're actually giving the information. I have never had to use words to articulate something in such a way other than at this time. And to be patient, because there's always a sense of time, right? We have to rehearse for this piece. We have a performance. So a lot of times we are, I don't want to say in a rush, but we have things to do. And so you're trying to get through it. But now I have to slow down. I have to back up as a teacher and really care about how I am articulating or trying to get the point across. And I think it's made the entire teacher's circle or that other side of the room really evaluate how you are talking to your students. I also feel that on the student end, it is, first of all, I think students have grown up in a way that they never would have had to, having to kind of develop on their own. So now if I'm articulating as a teacher, now as a student, I have to find alignment. I have to find poise and grace and elegance and all of these things by myself. And a lot of times what it's doing now is it's forcing students to work from the inside out and not the outside in. If my teacher was there and could fix me into position, that works, but there's also so much progress that is made when a student finds that sense of ownership over their own body and their own instrument to come to it on their own. And I think what's happened recently is, you know, I've taught a lot of classes, and what I've seen students do because they're comfortable in their homes and there kind of is no right or wrong because this is new for everyone. I think sometimes students get scared with the concept of a teacher thinking they've done something correctly or incorrectly. And what I've seen students do in the comfort of their space, just with words and guidance, is amazing. I think I've seen some of the students who I've seen in a studio space try things in a different sense or have more fun in their homes because they have let go of this mental construct of what is correct. And there is no correct way to do art. It is strictly from the soul. So, you know, shifting has been really, really difficult. And I think what's going to make it really special is when we come back to the studio space, that the students keep that sense of work and accountability, that teachers keep that sense of articulation. And I think it's going to make the communication even stronger.
That's amazing. And the fact that it's an empowering factor, and it helps with their own independence. So it is working from a certain point of view. So I guess with everything, you live and learn, and you have to do what you have to do. So Pierre, how about you?
I think our situation is a little different because most of the work that we do happens either in our Saturday classes, but the majority of what we do actually happens in the classroom with CPS, and most of those students have little or no formalized training. The thing that I have found to be the most useful during this period has been to have the students demonstrate it, and then also have the students to critique. Because I think in my experience, the students that we're working with, particularly if you're working with someone who's like maybe in the 5th grade or even in the high school area where they're just learning movement, to have someone see it, to have one of their peers do it, teach it, and break it down for them has probably been the most impactful. And then the other thing I think that has really helped us has been peer critique. So much of what we do is really kind of focused on the social emotional learning or the development of the child. And when they have to demonstrate, they have to lead, they have to do critical thinking skills, they're building up their confidence. So having the students take ownership of what's happening, I find has probably been the most impactful, especially when we're trying to break down and do classes. Oh, please tell me I wasn't on mute. Okay.
You were not on mute, Pierre. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, God.
We heard everything.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
We wouldn't let you talk like that, just talk. But you know what I'm worried about, you guys? I'm worried about our view. So I just want to give my technical support person a chance to put us back into the view so that I can have an audience member confirm that we are seeing the panelists as they're speaking. This is all new for us. So just very quickly, if someone could chime in and say that, yes, they see the panelists having a conversation, or if the previous view is better, and we'll continue into the next question, okay? So I believe we're back to our next question.
So that's me, and I have a question for you again, Pierre. Pre-pandemic, we had so many goals for our students, including but not limited to technical, social, emotional, and creative development. What are practical expectations for student learning, growth, and development through online dance education now? And how have you found yourself adjusting your expectations since the beginning of the pandemic?
You know, that's a great question. Through our work with one of our largest partners, After School Matters, they have a motto, and that motto is compassion over compliance. And we've kind of adopted that. I think that as we all have experienced, there's so many factors that play into whether or not a child is going to be able to get the material. But when you're working with students in underserved communities who have limited resources, whose parents don't have Wi-Fi, they're trying to learn it on their phone, the Wi-Fi connections are really bad, they keep getting tossed in and out. What we have done is we just try to encourage the students to come back when you can. We also do really a lot of encouragement to try to get the students to work collaboratively, either during the class time or without the class time. But I think that the biggest challenge has been the most important part has been realizing that the students, particularly the younger students, are dealing with issues that are completely out of their control. And if their Wi-Fi goes out, they're going to be gone. And if the choreographer is teaching some choreography, they're going to miss it. And then we try to go back so that everybody has an opportunity to learn. But I think the most important thing for us has been realize that the students, particularly the ones that we're dealing with, have a lot of handicaps, and to be able to work with them in whatever situation they bring to the table. The most important thing for us is that they are there and they're trying. And what we try to do is give them as much support, either from our administrative staff, creating chat videos for them, creating videos of the choreography for the students to have an opportunity to learn and see, but just really knowing, number one, that there are going to be a lot of challenges, not with the dance part, but just with the connectivity components, and then try to work around those.
That's great, thanks. I just want to mention or say, you know, to all of the teachers out there, how amazing and important it is what you're doing and the way that you're adjusting. I actually have 2 teenagers in the public schools here in New York City, each with very different experiences of going to online. And I have lots of dance education friends who are the main teachers in the schools. And I think that it's hard for us to recognize, because we're putting so much pressure on ourselves to do so much, how much what we're doing is really positively impacting our students, especially that kind of flexibility. Chris Justilian, do you have some other things you might have to add? I know you were talking about this the other day. And you're still on mute.
It has been extremely challenging. Imagine doing a concert band or orchestra virtually is just not possible. But I think my focus has shifted quite a bit to developing persons individually that will at some point contribute to them when playing together again at a time in the future. I find that in band and dance, and you know, the group dynamics almost provides you the opportunity to kind of hide behind each other. But in this setting, you cannot hide. You have to do it on your own. You have to, if you have to play a major scale, no one's going to play that for you. So when you have to submit that via Moodle or you know, audio file or video file or YouTube channel or whatever, there's just no opportunity for you to get away, as you might get away, or sometimes because of the schedule of doing a concert in a couple of days, you don't have time to address every single little thing. Now we have the opportunity to hear all of the little imperfections and deal with those things. I feel that my students are going to benefit greatly from this experience as well, because now they have to really pay attention to detail. No one can do it for them. So I think it was mentioned by Melanie, so it's not from outside coming in now, it's from inside. You have to bring this thing from within you and make it happen. And you're accountable for yourself in ways never before you had to be.
That's really beautiful. I love that, the having to focus on the outside, I mean, the inside coming out. I love it. Chris, I don't know, it's the last question is your question. Were you going to ask
Okay.
something?
Well, that's great, because I wanted to share something that we were talking recently about, culturally responsive pedagogy. I'm a Chicago public school teacher by day, and this idea of culturally responsive pedagogy is about, you know, showing up as the best teacher for the students as they come into your classroom. And common language in teaching practice is best practices, right? We've all heard that many, many times. What's the best practice? What's the best practice? And when we say best practice, what is inherent in us saying best practice is that there's one best practice. And in this time of COVID, when so many variables, so many different family situations, so many different views on your technology, look at the way I've been getting, you know, there's so many things to consider that for me as a practitioner, it's about letting go of my idea of best practices and what has always worked and what has always been best and what I know is really effective, and developing a habit in myself to really recognize what is in front of me, to really figure out tools by which I can understand what my students are going through, what they need, focusing on the social emotional learning aspects of dance, the community building aspects of dance, so that I don't want to walk into my virtual classroom with this list of best practices, because that's really not culturally responsive, right? That's really not allowing for flexibility for the student to show up as they are, which is going to be so variegated and so, I mean, disparate with all of the different family styles and issues that we have going on, not to mention the racial disparities and how COVID is impacting the families. So I think it's important to go into this work with a kind of an open lens and think about how can I get to know, how can I establish a relationship with my students? Because this year is the year to establish relationships. It might be time to lay the perfect time to off to the side, right? So I think I have one more question, and I'm being pressed by my lovely co-host, Faith, Dr. Butler is here. And the last question is for everyone, but it's actually, it says here for Chris. This is back at you, and I heard you talk about it. Chris, this Generation Z, right? This Generation Z that we're talking about educating, they've grown up using technology as a means of self-expression and socialization. They may be better equipped than we are, right, to adapt to online experiences. That's what I'm saying, right? Now we find ourselves in a moment where we need to be filmmakers, set designers, and technology experts. How do you and your students maintain individual identity in your classroom? Identity, what a great thing to think about, right? When we talk about being culturally responsive, who is that individual child? How are your identities and your students' identities being shaped by this experience?
Well, I've had a few classes already with students. And one thing that I've realized very, very quickly, that I could communicate with you face to face as we are communicating now, than using a name or I'm able to raise my hand and show my gestures, and they see my facial expression, and I could see their posture. I could see if they're asleep, if they're interested, or what have you. So although it may be that a lot of educators or instructors don't mind seeing a picture on the screen, but I still need that connection. I think that as creatives, we can't lose that touch. If the only way we can touch each other is for you to see my face. I get up in my student's face in a Zoom meeting. I can say, hey, listen, that scale didn't sound right. And they could see what I mean. If I were a black screen now, you would not see my expression. So I'm very adamant about, listen, you're a person. I need to see you. I need to feel you. I need for you to see what I'm talking about, to see how passionate I am about what I'm saying, to see when I'm smiling, to see when I'm frowning, to see if I have a concern or there's so much body language that we use as creatives, and let's not take that for granted. And we have to teach our young people as well to be expressive when.
Okay. Chris is breaking up.
Yes.
Chris is breaking.
That's it.
All right. So what I
Okay,
want,
is that any better?
you're back. You're back.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear you say it. I'm going to wait for this last question, but I really want you to go where you went last time we talked. And I'll ask you to hold it. Remember what you said. You said it's up to us as educators to be brave, right? To get into that technology.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Can you go ahead and do that right now, real quick, before we get into the next question from Dr. Faith
Yes.
Butler? Go.
Yes, I feel as if it was incumbent upon me to learn everything that there is out there to assist my students. I can't come and walk in the situation.
Wow. So this is the challenge of technology. You're breaking up.
I can share it with them. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It is the challenge.
So the summary of that statement, in case Chris got a little bit broken up, is that as teaching artists, right, that we have to step up to the challenge of technology. And so I have an incredibly brilliant scholar that I've known for the past 20 years when I first came to the Bahamas to teach at COB, which is now the University of Bahamas. And Faith has partnered with me, Dr. Butler has partnered with me on this project from the beginning all the way to the very end. What she's been doing throughout this presentation is monitoring the chat, right? And we also had some questions submitted early on when you gave your responses. And so I believe Faith is going to ask the question that we got sent to us via email most frequently. Faith, are you there to pop in?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone. One of the questions was, well, just to give you a preface of it, you've been talking about shifting into the virtual environment, communication changes, independence, choreography changes. One of the questions related to assessment. What about assessment? How do you assess dance students in the virtual environment or remotely, as some students had said?
I'm going to let them think about assessment and jump right in and tell you what I think is what we started this conversation off with. Is that if I am unable to put hands on them and have them perform and correct, then maybe I need to shift what I am trying to impart to those students, right? So can I have them participate in some dance history? Should I show them a slide? Can I show them a video and have them discuss it and see if they were able to use vocabulary that I had taught in my digital lesson in their discussion of the video? Are they using the vocabulary? They watched the video. I was listening for 2 vocabulary words. That's great, right? Self-assessment, peer review, that this idea that we're giving students a test or an exam, I know that's very popular in the Bahamas with the ballet, but what about peer review? What about having a partner and sharing feedback? Again, when I started the presentation today, I said I wanted us to think of dance not just about doing dance, right? But incorporating the history of dance, incorporating the study of culture. Could your students do a written paper or research or interview someone about one of the supportive careers of dance, the costumer, the lighting, the scene, the set, the ticket taker, right? So there's so many other avenues for us to understand the student's knowledge, and it's not just about, testing and dancing. Anyone else?
I'll jump in. I think what we consider as an assessment has to change on a whole. I think taking anything that was remotely similar to what we had and trying to apply that to a new scenario is just not going to work. There is no version of taking what we viewed as a good assessment or that this is correct and apply that to this scenario because everything is so different. But I think what we can do in terms of if we need to assess is look at all the other facets that come along with dance. It's dance history, as Kristen said, it's dance education, it's learning music. I remember having teachers tell me, don't dance, just put on some headphones and listen to the music. You can't be a dancer unless you are married to the music. So maybe students are learning to listen to music differently. Maybe they know more about history and where these different styles came from. I think it's all about seeing what can I learn that does not require the classroom? Actually, what do I need to know just as much as steps that sometimes gets lost in the classroom because we have to move and really, really take that in. I think sometimes I don't want, especially Gen Z, to fall into this trap of technology is finding their worth on screen. That as Mr. Christian said, it is about a feeling, it is about emotion, it is about being a person. And so as we go into assessment, I think we have to be super careful to not pinpoint or limit students to their worth only being on screen, and reminding them that though this is hard, it is still about the art, it's still about the stage, it's still about the feeling. And so we can't take the old version of assessing to this, because I think it's going to place the worth in the wrong places.
Can I just chime in too, Chris? I think it's really important to come back to the question of what are you assessing also, and to remind ourselves too that we do have a responsibility to train dancers technically, especially depending on what direction they're moving in. And that's an issue we already see even pre-virtual teaching, is kids that are learning to a look instead of somatically appropriate or a functional anatomy appropriate training. And so I think another resource that is available, there are different tools online where you can have your students video themselves and track joint movement, proper movement of joint, proper alignment of joints. And there are, I don't know the names offhand, but there are platforms that are used in physical education to assess students in that way. And I think another thing is teaching students how to learn how to tactilely give themselves tactile cues and to palpate and feel where, like if they're doing some sort of développé, to feel that their hip socket isn't lifting with the rest of their leg. I mean, I do think that those are things that have to be addressed as well, depending on who our students are, how they're training, what the goal is.
And so this is it. Dance is a holistic art form, right? It's not one thing in isolation. And so if we're going to be incredibly competent dance educators, we have to take that holistic approach, right? That it's technical skills along with social emotional learning skills like commitment. It's about knowing your history. Dance is a holistic art form, and that is really how Shirley practiced it, right? So we can't limit ourselves. We have more questions from the audience, which we are going to compile and add to our Shirley Hall Bass Dance Educators Forum project. What I have today is I'm going to ask Maureen to take us back into the slideshow. We're going to go into our very next slide, and we have some awards, okay? So we'll have a blank slide, I believe. Hold it right there. Hold right there. Hold it right there. So I want to say this. In the research that we did, interviewing Shirley's people, receiving all of these incredible images. We got program books and photographs, and it was amazing. We're still on the lookout for some old footage, right? What was so remarkable about this is that one person really stood out to me, okay? One person really stood out to me in these interviews as someone who had embodied Shirley's practice, this holistic practice that you guys have done such a good job today of describing. And that practice, I'm calling it Shirley's 7 dancing legs. Because Shirley was, of course, involved not just in teaching government high school students. She was not only foundational in the establishment of the National Dance School, the National Dance Company. She worked professionally for years, staging shows at Playboy Casino with Chris Justilian. And I have to say, Chris, I'm still upset with you for not telling me your long-standing relationship. She hired you as a music director when you were 18 years old for the Playboy Casino? I don't even want to know. But what an amazing experience, right? Just give us one Shirley story about that Playboy Casino time.
Well, Shirley was always on task, and if you didn't know her well, you would think that she was just a ruthless driver. But being on the music end, it was a joy. And how she got the best out of the dancers. And I'd like to take this opportunity to let you know that working with her early on really helped me develop my musical skills as well, because when I'm writing music now, I think about how would I dance to this, or how would I want people to dance to this? How would I want persons to react to this? So I'm not just writing for me anymore. So watching her train dancers, it definitely helped me in writing music for motion.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So I am ready now, having explained Shirley's 7 dancing legs, being very interdisciplinary, very overlapping. I have the next slide up because we're doing a few awards today. We're at 5:02. We've had a wonderful time talking about dance. And if I have the next slide, I would like to share with you We're going to be giving a Lifetime Achievement Award to York Lawrence Carroll. I remember seeing him in the 70s as a young girl dancing in the Nassau Beach Hotel and dancing in Atlanta. I mean, what an amazing dancer. And we have a special award for Courtney, which has been sponsored by the Sammy Dyer alumni. So we still have this cultural exchange going on of us valuing and recognizing dance. Next slide, please. Okay, and I'm going to make my slide big. And so, oops, excuse me. This is the tricky part. Lawrence Carroll was born in Nassau, New Providence to a nurse and a plumber. He studied dance with the New Breed Dancers under Alex Bain and then attended Ryerson University in Toronto. That opportunity was provided to him through scholarship that was available through the government that is no longer available. So the path that Lawrence took to his dance professional career and his certification is one of the things that the Shirley Hall Bass Dance Educators Forum is very committed to, is making sure that these paths remain in place, okay? He received a degree in theater arts and dance education. He is a member of the Royal Academy of Dance in London, England, and the Imperial Society of Teachers of Dancing in London. He came back to the Bahamas and taught performing arts in the government schools. When he, basically came into contact with Shirley, she did not let him go. Okay, she called him Legs. And when Shirley was offered the position of running the National Dance School, she said, sure, I'll come, but I got to bring Legs with me. And I was there. I remember that, very experienced.
Excuse me 1 minute. Chris, I think that some people are saying that they're not seeing the slides.
Okay, so can we go into share? A shared view. I'm not sure why that is. I think we're changing that now. Thank you, Faith, so much. You're such a good host. So if maybe someone can tell me when our slides are back up, give me a thumbs up. I'll say that professionally, once he came back after getting his educational experience in Canada, he performed at the Playboy Club, at the Bahamas Bound, many shows at the Cable Beach Hotel, including Le Fantastique, which I believe was performed, I can remember that show in Atlantis. And like Shirley, York Lawrence Carroll has produced and directed the Miss Bahamas pageants and the Miss Bahamas Universe pageants since Shirley's passing. 10 years ago, Lawrence Carroll opened his own dance academy, and I want you guys to let me know if you can see that image. Can you show me a thumbs up, Chris Justillian, if you can see the slide in front of you? Like a little, okay. So 10 years ago, he opened up the Lawrence Carroll Dance Academy, and in 2016, the government acknowledged him as a cultural legend. So I believe I have one more slide up for Lawrence Carroll. And this is a picture that I found, and I want you guys to all take a very good look at it. I want to make sure someone's going to send me a message saying, yes, you can see. Can someone confirm that? Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much, Aaron Ireland. That is the Playboy Casino, okay? And we're going to go back into the full present. And if you look very carefully, I can see Chris Justillian. I can see, oh my gosh, so many people. And there's Lawrence Carroll kneeling on the left. So Lawrence, are you here? Can you mic on and come in and talk to us for a minute? We're at 5:06 and we expect to go about 15 minutes over today, so we're just on time. Where is Lawrence Carroll?
I'm here.
Fantastic.
You hear me?
Yes. Are we not going to see you, Lawrence? Are you not going to give us your
Okay, if you insist.
Please.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Okay, great. Tell us, Lawrence, what is going on? How did you endure such an incredible career? How did you get there? How did that happen for you? Tell us.
Well, I always wanted to dance from I was a year old, but didn't know how I would do it because I was born in Nassau, Bahamas. And, male dances, that was a no-no. So I eventually met a student in my class who used to always bring her point shoes, and she would show up during the lunchtime. And that's how I was introduced to Alexa Bain. And I was 14 years old at the time, and that's where my whole dancing career began. It was rough because I was a male trying to dance in the Bahamas. But I persevered because I was always stubborn, and I always knew what I wanted, and nobody could stop me from getting it. And then, of course, I met Shirley Hall Bass, who I learned how to produce and direct shows, because I always remember when I was dancing, she would be in the wing doing the technical side of the show, and I would be standing there waiting to go on stage. And she would be saying, "Jesus Christ, that's the wrong light." I said, "Red." I said, "Blues." And this was how I realized, what is she talking about? Who is she talking to? And that's how I realized she was directing the entire show. And I said to myself, that is one area I would love to do. So I learned that through her. And also I continued my teaching at the National Dance School because of her, because she didn't want to do it without me. She just wanted me to be there with her. So basically we ran the National Dance School. And she taught me a lot of very good things about the whole dancing part of it. All my technical stuff I learned in Canada. My favorite teacher then was Florentina Lozhakova. She was a prima ballerina of Czechoslovakia when she was 16 years old. She was my idol in Toronto, and she was the one who drove me to pass my intermediate ballet exam because my teacher told me I would fail. And she said, "Okay, no problem, you come." And I used to take her morning classes because she was the one that flew to Nassau to audition us, and she took us back with her to Toronto. That's how the whole educational system began. And then after that, the rest was history. I returned home and I danced. Luckily, I was always a lead dancer and I was always the line captain, and I could never be found. Once the show was finished, I could never be found. I made sure I could never be found because I wanted to keep in my little bubble. And I'm still in that bubble.
I have a question for you. Because you really, I don't want to say stood the test of time because that's aging you inappropriately, but I would like to say, what, with all of your experience, okay, we're giving you a Lifetime Achievement Award, with all of your experience, what is it that we need to do to make sure that we can have more Lawrence Carrolls? What can we do as a nation in the Bahamas to improve the quality of dance education? What do you think is needed to get to where you are?
I think we need to improve the educational system of the dance. People need to go away and be properly trained. VA scholarships, help from the government, because in our last year, we got a loan from the government actually to complete our final year. And I think all the dance people, we all need to be certified so that we could uplift and build the technical level of the dance and try to uplift all the talent, because there are a lot of talented kids. But now who they end up with and who they go to for their training is a personal choice. But however, collectively, we all need to come together and develop a group that just spends that time on all those talented kids from wherever they go, bring them into one place and train them properly so we get some more Courtney Spears.
That's right. Thank you, Lawrence, man. I wish we could applaud for you. I wish we could let's all just clap for him. Let's go. Everybody gets clap. I don't want to break the mic, but yay. All right. I'm going back to the presentation. So I'm going to unpin. And we have another person who we are recognizing today. I believe I'm unpinning. Maybe I can get some assistance from my team. Can we unpin Lawrence? There we go. Our next awardee, and this is really fantastic. When I tell you that I learned a lot from our interviewees, a lot about Shirley's drive and persistence, what did it mean to be 32 years old and come to Nassau following after Freddie Munnings, who's invited you to stage some shows? What kind of audacity did Shirley have to go to a foreign country and start staging shows, right? I think I see that spirit in Courtney. From the moment I heard about her from Pamela Burnside, the minute I started exploring her work, I was so impressed with her passion and commitment and dedication to give back, right? To take her level of expertise that Lawrence has been so incredible and clear about needing. We need that expertise. We need that training. We need that professionalism. So can you share the next slide so we can see Courtney working with the children? She has established Sea Dance for children in the Bahamas who can come and participate in a quality dance educational experience. And because of her, she's a young dancer. I remember that time. Times were hard. Next slide, please. We have go back one up slide. We are giving her the Shirley Hall Bass, go up one more to the top, Legacy Award. So we'll just get to the slides of go to the end of the show. We're at the end of the show, y'all. We're at the end of the show. Can we snap for Courtney? And Courtney, we're sending you $500. That's a gift from the Sammy Dyer OGs, right? Yes, I mean, we're just so proud of you. And I'm so proud of everybody. So before we go, I'm going to bring Faith Butler back to sort of summarize what we have done since last summer into this summer, pushing to have a serious conversation about dance education in the Bahamas. Faith, what can you tell us is going on with the Shirley Hall Bass Forum? What are we doing? What are we up to?
Okay, so last summer, as you heard, we interviewed over 25 dancers from all over New Providence and some from Grand Bahama as well. We are in the process of digitizing that information, and that information will be housed at the University of the Bahamas Harry Seymour Library. Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Bertha May Walker, who is going to be working with us in that project. And we're also hoping to get the Ministry of Education as well as the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture on board with us as we conduct our national study to look at a proposed blueprint for dance education in the Bahamas. So we look for your support, and we may be contacting you for information to help us in this regard. And we encourage you to email shirleybassproject@gmail.com if you're interested in participating in one of the subcommittees as we progress on this work. It's a mammoth task, and we need your input as professionals, as dance enthusiasts. And at this point, I think I can now go into the thank yous now, Chris. We'd like to thank all our wonderful panelists. So, so esteemed, and I just feel, in the company of such greats. So our moderators, our panelists, our guests, we thank you guests for tuning in with us today, and I hope that you enjoyed the discussion and that you will join us in the future. And we also thank the Sammy Dyer alumni for their sponsorship of this with all of our planning and the awards. And we just thank Chris, who is really the founder of the Shirley Hall Bass Forum, and all of our hard work. And you don't know Chris, she's up late and up early at the same time, just working constantly on, because she's such, she must dance in her sleep, is all I can say. So we thank you, Chris, for your hard work, and all the panelists, all the organizers. I don't want to forget everybody, so I'm just going to say thank you all. And
I've got a special thank you. I've got to do it. I have to thank Carmen Nicole Smith.
Yes.
Because I stood next to her in a dusty little Russian ballet studio for 6 years. I met her when I was 11 years old. And lo and behold, we reconnected on my 50th birthday. We had a wonderful talk. And I said, oh, gosh, Carmen, what have you been up to? And she said, oh, I just got a degree in statistical analysis and, what we need for the Bahamas, okay? She's talking about making dance happen and proving it to the government that it works. So I just want to thank Carmen. I should talk to her every morning. She's been helping us constantly.
She's great.
I want to thank Shell Parkins for taking those really loose questions that we had developed as a team and crafting them so beautifully into some real meaty discussion came out of your careful crafting of those questions. I want to tell Chris Justillian, thank you for being a model educator. I had you here and you're like, I'm a musician. What am I going to do on a dance panel? And I think you're going to be the model leader that you are. You're all of those things. And to all of my panelists, I mean, you guys, this has just been fantastic. Can I give one shout out to my first grade colleague, my teacher friend, Maureen, who's running the slideshow, because she did really great, really awesome. And everyone, man, I have an intern, Hannah Grace Lynch, who's been checking your emails and sending out stuff. Is that everybody, Faith?
I think so. And if we've inadvertently, left everybody out,
I know what I want to say, that we're going to be having some subcommittees. We need the people who are in this chat to go right to that Shirley Bass Project at Gmail and think about what would they like to do? What would they like to contribute? Because we're going to press until we get dance education up to speed in the Bahamas. We're going to keep pressing. So we're going to be having some subcommittees. Maybe you're interested in dance history. Maybe you're interested in getting some very well-known choreographers' book published. I'm just saying, let's get ourselves together and lobby around our arts activists and support each other. We can do this, you guys. It's dance education in the time of COVID. Dance in the time of COVID. That was our show. Thank you so much for coming. 3 minutes over.